Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We've got a seriously dynamic board to cover today, and we're going to be connecting some major dots. We're going all the way from high-stakes global diplomacy right down to how shifts in the climate are literally impacting fundamental agriculture. So if you want to understand how all the moving parts of today's world actually fit together without all the extra fluff, you are in the exact right place. Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to kick things off with India's global strategic moves, then touch on international conflicts. After that, we'll zoom in on domestic infrastructure and the environment. And finally, we'll wrap the whole thing up with a look at shared global culture, the FIFA World Cup 2026. All right, let's get into Section 1, India's global strategic moves, focusing on expanding influence and defense alliances. Okay, let's dive right in. We're seeing some massive, multifaceted diplomatic shifts happening all at once right now. First up, India has just been selected for the vice presidency of the FATF. That's the Financial Action Task Force. This firmly embeds India at the helm of global anti-money laundering efforts, which is a big deal. Meanwhile, domestically, New Delhi is hosting the BRICS National Security Advisor meeting, bringing together the world's major emerging economies. And crucially, this actually facilitated a direct sit-down between India's NSA Ajit Doval and Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi. So what's the big takeaway here? It's the reported outcome, a gradual normalization of bilateral relations aimed at easing those long-standing border tensions. We're really seeing India step up as a key regulatory player globally while actively managing its very complex neighborhood alliances at the same time. Now, I want you to think about this number for a second. $482 million. That is a massive financial commitment. It represents a newly approved United States defense support package for India, and it directly underscores the deepening strategic defense alliance between the two nations. But the absolutely crucial point here is exactly where that $482 million is going. This isn't about buying experimental new fleets. It's about upgrading defense systems that are already in active service. Specifically, we're talking about sustaining India's AH-64E Apache helicopters and M777 howitzers. And this matters because maintaining and upgrading existing hardware is just as vital to military readiness as acquiring brand new assets. It basically ensures that the tactical systems already deployed on the ground and in the air remain at absolute peak operational efficiency. Moving on to Section 2, International Conflicts and Politics. We are currently observing a world in profound transition. Global stability is constantly being tested right now, but these disruptions are taking drastically different forms depending on where you look. Over in Eastern Europe, severe military escalation continues. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is pledging intensified operations, and concurrently, there are reports of drone strikes near areas of Moscow. So that conflict is evolving rapidly. Now contrast that with Western Europe. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has announced his resignation, which triggers a peaceful, yet obviously highly disruptive, democratic leadership transition in the United Kingdom. So whether it's through military force or a peaceful democratic transition, both of these events are sending immediate shockwaves through the global political landscape. Let's bring it back home for Section 3, Domestic Infrastructure and Economy, focusing on systems and security. Look at this striking number, over 1 lakh. That's over 100,000. This number represents the sheer scale of biometric profiles that are reportedly now stored within India's national DNA database. It's an immense, really unprecedented collection of data, and it signifies a massive leap in how domestic security and identity are being tracked at a systematic level. And this massive data collection isn't just happening in a vacuum. Several states are actively expanding their DNA record collection under a very specific mandate, the Criminal Procedure Identification Act. By utilizing this act, states are fundamentally changing the landscape of domestic law enforcement, centralizing biological markers at a scale we simply haven't seen before. But hey, infrastructure isn't just about digital data, right? It's heavily reliant on actual, physical, natural resources. Take a moment to think about this explicit warning from the financial agency Moody's. They're directly highlighting risks in India's water management framework, pointing to both governance and fiscal challenges. This is absolutely vital for us to understand today. Why? Because it frames water not just as an environmental talking point, but as a critical economic variable. When a major financial ratings agency cites water governance as a risk, it's a huge intersection point between India's environmental reality and its broader economic future. Which leads us perfectly into Section 4, Environment and the Monsoon, where ecology literally meets the economy. To really grasp those water management risks we just talked about, we have to look at the source, which is the Western Ghats. Fun fact here, this incredible mountain range is actually older than the Himalayas. It's a major global biodiversity hotspot, but crucially for our previous point, it's the primary source of several vital peninsular rivers. So protecting this ecological integrity isn't just a nice-to-have environmental goal. It is an absolute economic necessity to ensure water security for millions of people. Speaking of water security, the southwest monsoon, literally the lifeblood of Indian agriculture, has been on a bit of a roller coaster recently. After a really concerning 2-week slowdown, it has finally regained robust momentum, advancing across central India. And this shift is a massive relief. It directly benefits the ongoing sowing of monsoon-dependent kharif crops. It's just so fascinating to see how a shift in atmospheric momentum practically and directly impacts the sowing of the vital summer crops that feed the nation and drive the agricultural economy. Finally, let's pivot to Section 5, the FIFA World Cup 2026, a look at shared global culture. Even with all the global political shifts and economic challenges happening, the world kind of just stops for football, doesn't it? Right now, the tournament is really heating up. We're at a decisive phase in the group stage, with heavyweight teams like Argentina and France fighting tooth and nail to secure their knockout round qualifications. It is intense. Every single goal, every single save right now has the power to alter a nation's sporting destiny on the absolute biggest stage in the world. Which brings us to the end of today's explainer. But before we go, I want to leave you with a provocative thought. We've covered a ton of ground today, right? From $482 million defense upgrades and critical water governance warnings to crop-saving monsoon rains and the sheer cultural phenomenon of the World Cup. How do all these seemingly disparate systems shape the reality of our global future? Because, well, everything is interconnected. A rating agency's warning is linked to a biodiversity hotspot, just as global diplomacy is linked to national security. It's like a giant puzzle. I really encourage you to keep looking for these connections in the news every day. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next one.